Didn't you once say that, what's the difference between an optimist and a pessimist? You said something about the options for another way of seeing things, even though they're both wrong half the time? Or
well, let's see, the part of the issue is Ben Franklin said that pessimists, he prefers to be a pessimist because optimists are continually disappointed, but pessimists are always delighted. But what he ignored was that optimism is a strategy. See, optimism is a strategy for changing your life. If I met somebody who was looking for a job and they said, well, I want to get a job. Well, what kind of job? I don't know, something so I can pay my bills and get some food. Okay, well, how's it going? And they have this doom and gloom attitude. First, I'm thinking, do I want to work with that person? I can't afford the alcohol I'm going to need to deal with the depression it's going to bring on. And somebody with a positive attitude is so much more fun to help. Frankly, a lot of people don't know this, but the #1 characteristic that hiring managers look for in candidates is positive attitude.
Yeah, I've heard enthusiasm, which is a real similar type of thing.
Totally.
I want to work with this person. They're a positive force.
And keep in mind that people make decisions based on emotion and then justify rationally.
Yes.
You're interviewing someone and you know, okay, they can do C# and they can lay down circuit boards like nobody's business, but they're a real grind. I don't want to be sitting next to them all day hearing them whining about how life sucks.
Well, that actually transitions into the next question I had for you, which is the character. You're starting to touch on it, the characteristics of successful people, and then we'll lead into a clip with that. But why don't you tell us a little bit about this? When you see people that really are succeeding, or they're very close to succeeding, maybe with your help, what characteristics? What do they have? What are they doing?
What I see in people that are wildly successful is they're passionately committed to something. And it's usually something bigger than themselves. A lot of people want to make an impact and help improve the world. And being passionately committed to something makes everything easier. Because if I'm passionately committed and I really care about something, that comes across in my voice, in my behavior, in my actions. And guess what? People love to help you achieve your dreams. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that, the other characteristic would absolutely fundamentally need to be persistent. The willingness to keep on struggling, lurching fitfully forward for 5 minutes longer than you can stand it. Because that's when the breakthrough happens. A lot of people, it's like they're pursuing their ambition or their dream or their goal. It's like they're running a 100-yard race, and on the 90-yard line, they stop for a Coke. What is that about? And right around the corner, there was success. So when I started my business, I said, all right, I'm going to keep going for 3 months after I want to quit. 3 months longer than I can stand it. Because I figure if I coach people 5 minutes longer, I should be able to do 3 months, right?
So you know, that really fits into the thing you were saying before about starting your own business, because you're much more likely to be enthusiastic and feel like you want to give it and not quit as quickly because it's your idea, it's your business, it's something you care about, don't you think?
Well, absolutely. And you know what stresses people out? Feeling that they're out of control. You can take an enormous amount of stress if it's self-imposed. And having your own business is very stressful. It's a lot of work. And I thought, oh yeah, 1 year I'll get things cooking along. 3 to 5 years to start a business and get it cooking, and you know that.
Yeah.
And if you have a job now, good, start now, because 3 to 5 years from now, that job may not even exist, and you will already have gone over the hump of starting your own business successfully.
Do you coach people at all? I know you don't really do a lot of individual coaching, but how to bring up that business while they're still doing a lot of work in their current business. How do you tell them how to balance those two things? So
forget balance.
Oh, forget
Sleeping
balance?
is for when you're dead. Between midnight and 6 a.m., there's a whole work day in there. Yeah, I have a friend right now who's...
Do you ever sleep?
No. People write me that on email. Do you ever rest? Actually, I have a lot of energy. I bring a lot of energy to my work, and it's always driven people a little crazy because they always think I'm going to eventually slow down. But this is my normal pace. It drives me absolutely nuts to work with people who are going very slowly.
Okay, so we're going to show a clip, but first I'd like you to talk about what we're going to see and generous listening and all of that.
Okay, this is the lost leadership art. Listening. Listening is very passive. It can appear very passive. But getting listened to deeply and generously can be very transformative for people. And it's one of the things mainly I do when I work with clients is I go in and I listen. What do they really want to accomplish? And that listening has been a major factor in transforming individuals, teams, and organizations.
Do you teach them to listen as well?
Pardon? Oh, just kidding. Yes. So here's the deal. So when I'm listening to you, my natural instinct is to say, is he right or wrong? Do I like what he's saying or don't I like it? Is it good or bad? Do I agree or disagree? Constantly voting about what I think about what you're saying, rather than just listening with intense curiosity, wondering what gold is there in what you're saying that could be helpful to me. What a lot of people don't realize is that the listener is not there to ask clarifying questions and get nitty-gritty details resolved. The listener is there to be a mirror, to reflect back that person's wisdom and insights.
And so part of what I think you were recommending is to actually listen to just like you were saying before, listen to the person 30 seconds or however longer.
30 seconds longer than you can stand it until you want to dig your heart out with a rusty spoon, Steve. Listen to that person as if your life depended on it. Listening to people is like giving oxygen to a drowning person. Most people get interrupted every 8 seconds. Talking is usually about two TVs facing one another. Nothing's getting through. People are talking and waiting to talk, talking and waiting to talk. So this is a real barrier to critical thinking. Because when the brain knows, hey, I'm going to be interrupted every 8 seconds, it doesn't even engage.
So I know that you had a graph. I'm sorry we weren't able to show the clip, but there was a graph at one point where if you actively and generously listen, it opens up new possibilities that are cut off if you're doing all this judging. And so you never get to hear the person's inner wisdom, right?
Right. Well, now there's a time for critical thinking and decision making and a converging on a solution, but the temptation is to rush there. So you're in a meeting and someone says, hey, we have this problem, what should we do? I have an idea. Someone says, I have an idea. What do people say? Let's kill it and see if it lives. You know, let's shoot holes in it, right? And that's the first thing. People jump all over it because, for one thing, it's much easier to criticize, condemn, complain than to support and encourage. And the second problem is that negative people appear smarter. So we are taught, especially as we go through the academic world, to be critical because then we'll appear smarter. If we're negative, we'll appear smarter.
Because you can poke holes.
Sure. Oh, that's what you get rewarded for. So in a divergent conversation for possibility, where you're not quite sure what should be done, asking questions like, help me understand, tell me more, what else, go on, what would that make possible? That expands the conversation and the possibilities. And what the person being listened to finds, and the whole team, in fact, finds, is that what started off maybe kind of a stupid idea gets built upon and grows and expands to somehow there is a breakthrough, there is an insight. It's a perfect way to solve impossible problems.
Can you repeat those questions so the audience can hear that again? The generous listening questions that open up. Say a few.
I got them on a fridge magnet. I'll send you one.
Oh, okay.
But the questions are basically to greet people with, tell me more. Help me understand. Don't ask why. Disguise it as help me understand. When people get asked why, they get defensive. Don't ask them how, because as soon as people start to have an idea, the last thing they need is to be asked how to execute something they haven't even fully formed. They don't even know what. So you ask them, what would make that possible? What would that allow for? If anything were possible, and if you knew you would succeed, what would you begin? What would you do? Those are conversations for possibility. That's what real leaders do during the divergent phase when people are poking around saying, what's possible here? What even is the problem that we need to solve? We're not even sure.